Hey, everybody. This is Jeffrey Sheridan with Political Farrago. This is our first time on the air. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? Well, that's a good question. Um, Thought about it. There's so much going on, so much news going on. So we'll definitely be talking about whatever's in the headlines and stuff. Um, I was thinking about possibly doing it from a humorous point of view, which is really hard these days, looking for anything humorous in the news whatsoever. I even got myself a little Make America Great Again cap. Yep. So if I ever want to turn into MAGA, I'm all set with my cap. Um, but this is day number one. I just wanted to see how the lighting looked, how the microphone was looking, and just basically the whole setup. Now, I do have a, a back curtain here um, that I was going to put up, and I probably still will. But since this is just a little trial thing right now, I'll let you see my wonderful dogs in the background and maybe my walls that need a good painting and stuff right at the moment. So I'll get the backdrop going here pretty soon. But I just wanted to see how things looked and sounded this very first time. And some of the things we'll be talking about, well, are just whatever's in the news at the moment. I know there's a lot of other podcasts out there that pretty much do the same thing. And, they'll play some news clips of Trump or, saying something crazy or whatever. Or, like Pam Bondi that testified the other day before, was it the Senate? And basically didn't answer any questions, just. um, that's basically what all these hearings are anymore when they get people to come and testify or whatever. They don't answer any questions, or they end up fighting back and forth with the senator or congressman that are asking them the questions that they never end up answering the questions. Even when they nominate the Supreme Court justices and stuff. And it's like, well, how would you vote if, blah, 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 blah. And, well, Senator, it's hypothetical, or, I can't really answer that because that's hypothetical, which you can pretty much say, that about anything at any time, that it's just hypothetical, unless it's actually happening right at the second, you know. But it don't matter anyway, because even if they did tell you something definitively, a yes or a no, or yeah, I would vote this way if this issue came up or whatever. Once they get in there, they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do anyway, and whatever they said before doesn't make any difference. It's like people don't really care anymore. That they're basically caught in a lie. You can show them something they said completely different the day before, and either they'll deny saying it or, well, that was in a different context or whatever. So, you know, it doesn't really do any good anymore to actually ask a person any questions anymore. Um, so, and I sort of been going back and forth, with everything happening, with the mask people going into cities and rounding people up and stuff. It's just becoming way too crazy and too much for me to, really handle any longer. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm on here right now. Um, Basically, just to sort of vent my deep frustrations with everything. I'm sort of going back and forth between leaving the country. I have been looking. By the way, it's just not as easy as saying, "Hey, I'm fed up with everything in this country. I'm gonna move to Canada or whatever." Um, I got news for you. You just can't get up and just decide to move to Canada because Canada has their own immigration rules too. And just because you're sick of living here and you want to move to Canada, I was afraid that ain't a good enough reason for you to be to go to Canada because they won't allow that. They'll allow you to come like for 6 months or whatever. But if you want to permanently live there and become a citizen or a dual citizen or something, you might as well forget it. There's only like a handful of countries where you can go and be a citizen. You're relatively easy. There's only like a handful of them, and they're like Portugal and Ecuador and Thailand. And there's a half dozen or so other ones too, that you could move to. Uh, so, but yeah, if there's a certain destination you definitely wanted to go to, like Sweden or Norway or Canada or whatever, you just can't get on the plane and go move there and you know that's it. You're a citizen. Um, they don't work that way. You can stay there for a short period of time before they tell you to get the hell out. Now there are exceptions, like maybe like if you're a student, you're on a student visa or something like that, or if you're there for work, for a job or something like that. That's a whole different thing. But just to get up and move because you're sick of things, the way they are here in this country, you just can't get up and do that, I'm afraid. Um, so I've looked into that. So I've had that point of view. Um, sort of like, oh my God, I'm just so sick of all this fighting all the time. It's like one constant battle where every time you get up in the morning, um, Trump is saying something, crazy or doing something crazy or something. I don't. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I thought about maybe just gathering up all the weirdness and all the stupid things that have been said and done, but I don't even know where to begin with, to tell you the truth, because it's something every day, literally. you know Maybe Saturdays and Sundays, maybe you can get by without something strange being said or going on, but during the week, I mean, you, you're in for it. So I've been thinking about just moving moving out, period. I'm sure I could get to like Ecuador or Portugal or whatever, you know, uh, well enough. And then I've been thinking about actually running for Congress next year, in next year's elections and stuff, and sort of, trying to get into the inner workings of the country and stuff, and try and see if we can solve some of the problems and get people's heads together and start making them starting to think logically again or something. And maybe by running for Congress and getting in Congress or something might do something. So I'm looking at things from both. Oh, I'm having this fight between this side that says get the hell out, and this side, well, get involved and make some changes. So I guess the podcast is sort of like in the middle, right at the moment. And we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens and stuff. The only thing is about getting up and moving is I do have dogs and stuff, and they're middle aged to older dogs, and they've lived here for quite a few years, and it'd be sort of traumatic for them just to get up and leave and stuff, and I don't really want to upset them that way because I am a real animal lover. yeah, I'm a big time animal lover, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for an animal. Matter of fact, I'll tell you my skunk story. There was a skunk outside a year or two ago, and there was a plastic bottle that was on the ground, I guess, and the skunk had put his head in the plastic bottle, maybe to get some maybe water that had was in the bottle or something. But anyway, the skunk got his head caught, you know, in the plastic bottle and couldn't get it out. And I thought something was uh, when I go to take my dogs outside and stuff. Sometimes my next door neighbor will come over with, and because he likes to see the dogs too, and he'll come over and stuff. And at that time, he was bringing his dog over too. So we were going to go outside, and he came over with his dog because he always goes out there first before I come out, and to make sure everything is secure and everything before I let my dogs out. And he said, "Oh, there's a skunk out here, and it's he's not really doing too good. He's you know his head is inside of this plastic bottle and stuff, and you know." I can't, I'm not a real big skunk lover, skunk lover. I have to admit, but it is an animal, and I didn't want to see it suffer or anything. So I was trying to think of what the hell, what can I do? I can't stand to see this poor thing suffer, and it can't get its head out of the plastic bottle. So I had some a hole digger. It's like a shovel, except it's got little pointed, things at the bottom, like where the shovel part is, so where you can dig a hole. You know, it's they're sort of like big tweezers basically. And I thought, maybe if I can get the hole digger around the neck of the bottle, maybe I can pull it off and stuff. And then I thought, well, he's in there pretty tight and stuff. So I got some oil that I had, and I was able to get close enough to him to sort of sprinkle the oil around, its neck that was inside of the bottle and stuff. So I got in front of the skunk. I put the hole digger around the bottle and held it tight, and then I sort of pulled back on it with a little bit of pressure, and the skunk sort of the skunk sort of pulled the opposite direction, you know, to try and to get the bottle off because I think he sort of knew what I was trying to do. So I was pulling this way, he was pulling that way, and sure enough, that plastic bottle came off of his head, and I felt so good that I was able, to do that for a skunk. You know, it's an animal, and it was in trouble. And I was able to help it and stuff. And I gave it some space. And I sort of walked away and stuff, and because I didn't want it to feel threatened. And he managed to, he walked away and went under the fence and stuff and went on his way and stuff. So that made me feel good. So that's my skunk story. Um, I'm trying to remember now. Why did I tell that story? I can't even remember where we left off at. But anyway, that's the skunk story. And so yeah, well, I know how we got onto it. I was talking about maybe moving, but I didn't want to move because of my dogs and stuff. And you know, I look at it as their house too, and I don't want to do anything that's gonna upset them. You know, so um, for now, we're still here, and like I said, maybe I'll just decide to do the run for Congress, next year and see what happens. I did actually, not sort of run a few years ago. I registered my name, that I was running, and I got a call from the local political parties, saying, well, are we've already vetted our candidate and stuff, are you even, a member of this party and stuff, and you know, I I said, well, yeah, and they said, well, we've already vetted our candidate and stuff, and um, which I already knew that it doesn't really make any difference if they vetted somebody or not. That's one of the problems with this country right now. Are the political parties that are in charge of everything are making bad decisions because they're just concerned about the party being in power, and that's what they're mainly concerned about. They're not they're not concerned enough about the country or the individual people in the country. They seem to be more concerned about keeping their party in power. Means more to them than anything else. So I didn't really care that they'd vetted. Matter of fact, if I do run again, I'll just do the same thing that I did before. I'll probably register like on the very last day that you're eligible to do it. Just to piss them off. And when I did that the last time, I decided not to really, pursue it or run or, make appearances or appear on the local TV show that they normally have all the candidates on and stuff. I didn't go for that because, I just decided I wasn't going to pursue it and stuff at that time, even though I put my name in it and paid the $100 fee to put your name on the ballot and all that stuff. But even though I didn't actually run or pursue it or anything, I still ended up with 25% of the vote without even doing anything. So this time I'll definitely put out and definitely be serious about it and just sort of take it from there. That's if I definitely decide to do it. I haven't definitely decided to run yet, but it's a possibility. So, but anyway, I wanted to get on here this very first time and basically just check out the lighting, see how I'm looking. If I look just drastically terrible or something, and I need a ton of makeup, like Trump or something like that. Wanted to see how the microphone sounded, if I'm sounding like Daffy Duck or whatever. So that was basically the main thing for this first time. So just wanted to say hello to everybody, and I'll be talking to you again. Thanks for listening to Political Farrago with Jeffrey Sheridan, and I'll be seeing you soon.